Hello and welcome to Chesson Worldwide Communications 360. On today's Rhode Island's Talking Drum, I'm Rodney Chesson, your host. Today, August 19th, is a nice sunny day. It's a Saturday, so after this show, make sure you go out and have yourself a wonderful day. On today's Rhode Island's Talking Drum, we're going to look at issues that happened during last week, or should I say this week, since Saturday is the end of this week. Well, we know about the recent incident in Charlottesville, Virginia. It is sad when you see grown African American men shedding tears on national television, not even national, worldwide television, because of the ills and harms they have suffered over the decades. And now, in this new era, where our hopes for a better democracy, a better America, a better life has been put on the line and is jeopardized by the recent statement of our President, Donald Trump. Which way, America? It's so hard because in America today, when we should be taking the leadership of the world, as we have always done, and maintaining a new era of democracy, here we are, still perpetuating the KKK, skinheads, we got Antifa, all these groups fighting fascism, trying to promote race superiority in this day and age. And these are young men of our decade. I mean, it's troubling. It's very troubling when you see young men who are supposed to have surpassed the ills and harms of our fathers to create a better world where we can begin to set standards as one world to save humanity from rising waters, from raging heat that causes raging fires all through our lands. Here we are today fighting about black and white, about Jews and Americans. But you know, despite all what Donald Trump said, as I said in my previous video, as soon as I heard him address the Charlottesville, Virginia incident the second time, the first time was presidential, the second time he went crazy. But as I heard him address it the second time, I felt a little anger, just like African Americans. Because I know what we go through in Africa, and I know what African Americans have been through in this great nation. And if they go through it in this great nation where they're supposed to be advanced, knowledgeable, and more conscious of the ways of the world than us in Africa, and what do you expect to happen to us in Africa? You expect our lives to be any better? When you see people suppressing African Americans coming to Africa, will they look at us any better? When they're suppressing people not because of ideology or religion, but because of the color of their skin. How can a man who hurt my brothers overseas because of the color of the skin come in my country and love me with the same color? That's asinine. That's just one point. My second point is with the Jews. I'm very, very disgusted, disappointed, heartbroken in the behavior of the Jews in America and around the world today. Because they're no different than Donald Trump. They're the same white racists. And whether they try to cover it and say, no, I don't hate Jewish people. I don't hate no people under this sun. Let me clarify that right now. But I'm just tired with the BS. I can't put it any other way. I got to say BS. Because it's been going on for centuries and decades. And the same thing with this issue of Charleville. How many decades have African Americans not complained about those same statues in the different places in our nations? How many times have African Americans right here in Rhode Island have complained about Providence Plantation? The Jews never acted. The Jews never stood up with the blacks and said, yes, let's take the statue down. Let's destroy them. No. Those statues been there since what? The 40s and 50s and 30s? Now, the whole nation is in an uproar to dig up these statues. And that's what I'm saying. We shouldn't dig up all those statues. Because just as those statues are symbols of race, superiority, hate, and racism and anger against the skin color of Negro people, that just how those statues have to remain in some places and not the museums, so that our children can know that those are statues that were erected by a segment of America that perpetuated race superiority and hate. We cannot hide the fact of racial hatred in America, in the museums. Our children got to walk by them, see them, talk about them, tell each other how they disdain that statue from now to eternity. But as I was saying, all this time the Jews never complained. But when they saw the Nazi flag and they heard the Americans, young Americans, shouting, the Jews will not replace us, to the old folks who have perpetuated the separation of race in America for so long, thought about the lives they shared or their parents told them about or their grandparents told them about in Germany. But through this whole course, none of the Jews have felt strongly enough about the plight of African Americans who have died in the hundreds of millions since the 1800s in America today. The deception cannot continue. To set America straight, we have to draw the line. Not the black people, not the Jews, not the Hispanics. If we are determined to rectify the issues of race in America, then minority groups have to be sincere and stand up together. The reason I point up the deception of the Jews is because throughout history, it has been like that. That's why it is important for Negro people to read the Bible. Because the Jews have always separated themselves from others. That happened during the reign of the prophet Hezekiah. When Hezekiah became the judge of the race of Israel after Solomon and the destructive behavior of Rehoboam, his son, his illegitimate son, the Jews were dispersed around the world. And when Hezekiah took over to bring them together, he demanded that all the Jews who were married to Gentiles leave their husbands and wives and return to Israel. This cannot continue. We respect the fact that Jews are God's chosen people. We respect the fact that our religious tenets and beliefs is linked with Judaism. But we cannot ignore the plight of Negro people when it is not the plight of the Israel people. That's my take on all of this Shala incident. So Mr. Trump is just reiterating what many Americans have secretly felt throughout the decades about the plight of black people. Many of the people I've been talking to on the internet, my wife, people on the internet, they keep missing the point and telling me that they have black friends. The issue is not black friends. The issue is loving black people. If Jesus only loved his black friends or his Gentile friends, there would be no spreading of Christianity today. If Paul, who was the master spreader of Christianity after Jesus Christ, who spread Christianity to Europe and the world better than any other disciple, if Paul had said that Christianity was only for his Roman friends, where would the Jews in Jerusalem be today? History is a significant thing to remember. The Bible is our guide today. It's our spiritual guide. And if you know the Bible, many of these deceitful practices will be eliminated. These deceptive strategies and subtle behaviors that promote race superiority will be crushed. People talking about Steve Bannon now. Steve Bannon is insignificant to black people's plight. He is a racist, and he is the cause of Trump's problems in the White House. American people, racists, may think he's a big king, but he's of no significance to black people. Liberia. As I have stated on the internet, debates, the ongoing debates in Liberia now, are a good and healthy exercise for Liberian people. When we can listen to our leaders discuss the issues of our country on pros and cons levels, and our people have the opportunity to hear from these leaders what our desires are for a better Liberia. And not only our desires, but how they intend to implement their massive plans and procedures and economic revitalization of the country. We have to understand all these things. And once Liberian people can understand the views of the candidates, they are well informed, better informed, more knowledgeable, and aware of which candidates presents a better picture for an outstanding future for Liberia and Liberian people. Even though George Weah and Mill Jones missed the debate, Boycott, Bumskin, Cummings, Urey, all of the top 5 contenders were present. The debate was very, very, very interesting according to news reports. It was organized by social organizations, not government or not political groups, but social, humanitarian and societal betterment organizations in Liberia got together and organized these debates. The first debate was on the 17th, Thursday the 17th. And the topics of the debate were economic, agriculture, peace and reconciliation, youth empowerment, security, and rule of law. And each candidate looked at the different aspects of the rules of law, of the different issues of the debate. You can go online to the Liberian Observer, liberianobserver.com, or you just go to just type in Liberian Observer and it will bring all the other things up. Or you can go to Front Page Africa and read about the debates and some of the discussion discussed, some of the issues discussed. I was just reading this morning that Rodney Chesson has proposed a bill for the amendment or modification of the election laws, which state that the National Election Commission of Liberia and the Supreme Court are the arbitrators of complaints from election results by the different parties. And according to the law, they are given 2 months to sort out all complaints within time for inauguration of all elected candidates in the month of January of the following year. Now what Rodney Chesson is proposing, now Rodney Chesson is the senator from Cape Mount County who is being accused of bribery in the Sable mining case for bribing a number of senators and government officials. So his case is currently pending because he passed out from stress and they have to take him for brain surgery or something out of the country. And these are the people ruling our country with no health facility or everything, but they can leave the country and go away because they got the money. But the rest of the poor people in our country do not have the even means to cure themselves from simple malaria or pregnancy. And they're dying for that or being locked up in the hospital, JFK hospital, because of that. And this is a shame. Now here's the same Rodney Chesson who tried to change our laws for a foreign company to benefit and for he and his buddies to get some pocket change and destroy our country. And he's in court right now facing the crime of bribery. So here's the same man writing a bill to our legislature recommending that because when certain senators of his representatives of his counties were elected during the previous election in 2014 and they complained about the election, they were not given the opportunity to take their position in a timely manner with the rest of the elected candidates in January. They were delayed, thus causing them to lose causing the county to lose representation for a while, and also causing the compensation due to these complaining representatives who were complained against. their financial enumerations will be tampered with. Now, in a corrupt country like Liberia, where the man puffering this bill himself is being charged with corruption, how can he propose that because of the problems people suffered before and because of their financial benefits, because of losing their financial benefit, the Liberian law should forego review of election complaints by the Supreme Court and allow the National Election Commission to be the sole arbiter and decider in election complaints violation? This is absurd, asinine, and a real disgusting personal opinion, I feel, of Mr. Sherman of the Liberian people. Perhaps he thinks today he's the paramason of Liberia because he and Banks fighting to be paramason, so they can make all kind of foolish laws to fool the Liberian people. Now, if the country is so corrupt, Sherman himself so charged with corrupting our legislature, how will the Liberian people rely on the election commission alone and forego the foresight of the Supreme Court in reviewing complaints that have been acted upon by the election commission? Right now we have a problem with the election commission. People are accusing them of being corrupt. Now, despite the problems between the legislature and the Supreme Court, Liberians know that the legislature cannot tamper with the judiciary. We have laws that protect those behaviors. So for Sherman to say, or his supporters to say, yes, because of the incident with the Supreme Court and the legislature, we don't think, and the Supreme Court should bother with the case, with reviewing election results because there's a problem. That is asinine too. It is important that the Supreme Court be the final arbiter of all election complaint violations acted upon and decided by the Election Commission. No more can we tolerate corruption, stealing, and gross mismanagement of Liberia and the Liberian Republic. World terrorism. This incident in Paris recently, on Thursday, was disgusting. Now pundits are wondering why and putting all kinds of reasoning before us as to why ISIS attacked Spain. Some of them saying it's political because Spain involvement in Iraq and Syria, supplying them logistics and not actually sending manpower or being involved in the war, but secretly providing intelligence and other support to people in the war. So that's one reason ISIS is going after them. Secondly, people believe it's historical. They believe in the 1400s, the 15th century, Spain was the vanguard of Islam in the world. Most Muslims call that the golden age of Islam. Now there are two golden ages. The first golden age some consider is the birth of the Prophet Muhammad. And the second golden age is the Islamic control of Spain in the 1400s. And after that, the spread of Islam began to decline, because prior to all of that, Islam had been kept from spreading in Europe. And in the 1400s, they have been successful in spreading Europe to the point of maintaining the Spanish nation as the hierarchy or the golden age of Muslim in Europe, of Islam in Europe. So these are the things we're looking at in the world. But this is a warning to our security people and military people in America. Despite what people say about the various attacks going on to Europe, we know for the time being America has remained relatively safe. ISIS is not stupid. If they can't get us directly, they may employ other strategies. And our security and military have to think out the box. And with these various crises going on and organized motor vehicular accidents and stuff, it could be a clear strategic attempt to draw America's attention to Europe, spread out our military and security to allow the Islamic State to wage a war in America. Beware, America. We cannot neglect our own domestic security. So while we're spreading and protecting and promising other nations that will be there for them, we cannot spread our military and security too thin. A word to the wise is sufficient. Ladies and gentlemen, I got my African kola nut right in front of me. This is the nut of wisdom for our African leader. When we sit in our little traditional settings, our kola nut represents a lot of things. It's a welcome symbol in most West African villages. I don't know about East Africa and South Africa, but I know for most West African nations, the heart of black Africa, we eat kola nut. It's presented as a symbol of peace and welcome. And in our olden day culture, if you enter a village and didn't offer kola nut, or the villagers didn't offer you kola nut, you were not welcome there. So this is a symbol, a great symbol in our society. And for our educators and students and leaders, it's a great, how you call it, sleep deterrent. For me, it doesn't work, but it's just traditional. So when you see us chewing our kola nuts, or our mouths are all red and like you know what, just know that we're hanging with tradition, and we've got to keep it going. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Rhode Island's Talking Drum, a production of Chesson Worldwide Communications 360. I'm wishing you all a wonderful day and a wonderful week ahead. See you in our next Rhode Island's Talking Drum. Have a good day.